"Status report," he said, his voice calm and steady. Lieutenant Lee Sung Min looked up from his tactical station. "All systems normal, Captain. We're approaching the orbit of Neptune. Nothing unusual on scanners." But something felt wrong. After 15 years in space, Han had learned to trust his gut feelings. He watched the stars, searching for anything out of place. Chief Engineer Kim Do-ha's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Engineering to bridge. Captain, I'm seeing some strange power fluctuations in our sensor array." Before Han could respond, the space in front of them twisted. 3 massive ships appeared out of nowhere, their dark hulls seeming to eat the starlight around them. "Battle stations," Han ordered. Red alert sirens filled the ship as crew members rushed to their posts. The largest alien ship sent out a signal. A hologram appeared on the bridge, showing a tall, metallic-skinned being. Its voice came through in perfect English, dripping with contempt. "Primitive humans," it said. "I am High Commander Nexus of the Raxus Collective. Your presence in space has become annoying." Han stood tall. "This is Captain Han Ta-1 of the Earth Space Service. You are in Earth-controlled space. State your intentions." The alien laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Intentions? To teach you your place. Your species plays with technology you barely understand. The Phoenix is your greatest achievement, is it not? Allow us to show you true power." The alien ships moved with impossible speed. Energy beams lanced out, striking the Phoenix before its shields could fully activate. "Shields at 60%. Lee shouted. "They're weapons. I've never seen anything like them." Han gripped his command chair as the ship shook. "Return fire. All batteries." The Phoenix's weapons blazed, but the energy shots splashed harmlessly against the alien ship's shields. On the tactical display, Han watched in horror as more enemy ships appeared behind them. "Engineering to bridge." Kim's voice was urgent. "Captain, they're not just damaging our shields. Their weapons are somehow unmaking our hull at the quantum level. We've never seen this kind of technology." Another hit rocked the ship. Sparks flew from several control panels. "Shields at 30%. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 5. Lee's fingers flew over his console. "Emergency force fields holding, but barely." Science Officer Park Ji-soo spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm analyzing their weapon signatures. This isn't just advanced technology. It's beyond anything in our theoretical models." Han knew he had to make a choice. The Phoenix was Earth's pride, its most advanced vessel, but his crew was more important. "Engineering, how long can we maintain emergency power?" 10 minutes, maybe less," Kim replied. "Whatever they're using, it's eating through our systems like acid through paper." Another blast hit them. The lights flickered, and more alarms blared. "Shields at 15%. We can't take another direct hit." Lee's voice cracked with tension. Han made his decision. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump. Lieutenant Lee, plot us a course directly to Earth. Engineer Kim, give us everything you can to the engines." "But Captain," Lee protested, "if we push the damaged engines that hard." "Better a damaged ship than a dead crew," Han cut him off. "Execute jump on my mark." The alien commander's hologram appeared again. "Running away. How typical of your species. Go then. Show your world how easily we defeated their best ship. Let them understand what true power looks like." Han ignored the taunt. "Mark." The Phoenix's engines screamed as they pushed beyond their limits. Space bent around them as they jumped away from the battle. The ship shuddered violently, systems failing across all decks. They emerged from the jump near Mars, trailing debris and venting plasma. But they were alive. "Damage report," Han ordered, helping a fallen crew member back to their station. Kim's voice was grim. "Bad, Captain. Really bad. The jump nearly tore us apart. Main power is failing. Hull integrity is below 40%. And whatever they hit us with, it's still affecting our systems. It's like the metal itself is coming apart at the seams. Han looked at his bridge crew. They were shaken but alive. The Phoenix, Earth's greatest achievement in space technology, limped toward home, its hull scared and systems failing. But in Han's mind, wheels were already turning. The aliens had shown them something new. Impossible weapons and arrogant pride. They thought humanity was primitive, weak. He smiled slightly. They would learn that breaking humanity's best ship was a mistake, because now they had no choice but to build something better. As the red planet Mars slowly filled their viewing screen, Han made a silent promise. This defeat would become the foundation of humanity's greatest victory. Chief Engineer Kim Dua hadn't slept for most of that time. She stood in the observation room, staring at holographic displays of the ship's damage. "Impossible," muttered one of the station's senior engineers. "The hull isn't just damaged, it's breaking down at the molecular level." Kim nodded, her tired eyes fixed on the data streams. Something about the damage pattern kept nagging at her mind. There was a pattern here, hidden in the chaos. Captain Han entered the room, followed by Science Officer Park Ji-soo. They both looked as tired as Kim felt. "Earth Command wants a full report," Han said. "They're talking about scrapping the Phoenix." "No," Kim's voice was firm. "Captain, I need more time. There's something here we're missing." Park moved to one of the displays, her eyes widening. "These energy signatures, they're like nothing we've ever seen. But look at this pattern." She pointed to a recurring wave in the data. "It's almost like..." "Like what?" Han asked. "Like they're using the space between atoms as a weapon," Kim finished, suddenly understanding what had been bothering her. "They're not breaking our ship. They're unmaking it by attacking the quantum field itself." The room fell silent. Park quickly pulled up more data, her fingers flying over the holographic controls. "She's right. Look at these readings from the hull breach on Deck 4. The atoms aren't being destroyed. They're being forced out of phase with normal spacetime." Kim felt excitement building in her chest. "And if they can do that as a weapon, we could do it as a defense," Park finished, her eyes shining. Captain Han looked between them. "Explain it simply." Kim grabbed a tablet and drew a quick diagram. "Think of it this way. When you throw a rock at a wall, it hits the wall because both the rock and the wall exist in the same space-time. But what if you could make the wall shift slightly out of phase with reality? The rock would pass right through. That's what their weapons did to our hull," Park added. "But we could reverse the principle. Instead of letting their weapons phase our ship out of space-time, we could phase their attacks into empty space," Kim finished. "Captain, we need to analyze every piece of data from that battle. If we can understand how their weapons work, we can build something better," Han said, understanding dawning on his face. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Kim and Park worked with teams of engineers and scientists, analyzing every second of sensor data from the battle. Lieutenant Lee joined them, bringing tactical logs that showed exactly how the Rax's ships had moved and attacked. "Their maneuvers were perfect," Lee said, pointing to a battle replay. "Too perfect, like they were following a computer program without any human or alien intuition." Kim looked up from her calculations. "That's their weakness. They rely too much on their advanced technology. They don't adapt or innovate during battle." Park suddenly called out from her workstation. "I've got it. Look at these quantum resonance patterns. Their weapons create a specific frequency when they interact with normal matter. If we could generate an opposing frequency, we could create a shield that doesn't just block their attacks," Kim said excitedly, "but redirects them into null space." Captain Han, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "How sure are you about this?" Kim met his eyes. "Captain, what they did to the Phoenix showed us something nobody on Earth had even imagined was possible. They thought they were teaching us a lesson about power." She smiled. "Instead, they gave us the key to surpassing them." "We'll need resources," Park said. "A lot of them. And time to develop the theoretical framework into working technology. And a new ship, Lee added. The Phoenix can't be saved, but we can use what we learned from her destruction to build something unprecedented. Han nodded slowly. I'll take your proposal to Earth Command. But I want something more than just defensive capabilities. If we're building a new ship, we'll make it able to fight back, Kim promised. The Raxus think they've seen humanity at our best. They have no idea what we can do when we're pushed to our limits. As they worked through the night, news came from Earth. More Raxus ships had been spotted at the edges of the solar system. They were coming. But this time, humanity would be ready. Kim looked at the prototype designs taking shape in the holographic displays. The Raxus had broken their best ship, thinking it would break their spirit. Instead, they had given humanity the blueprint for a revolution in space warfare. She smiled as she adjusted another calculation. Sometimes the best innovations came from the worst defeats. The Raxus were about to learn that the hard way. 1 month after the attack, the massive underground facility beneath the Korean mountains hummed with activity. Earth's governments had agreed. This would be humanity's greatest engineering project. Chief Engineer Kim Do-ha walked through the main construction bay, where thousands of workers from every nation on Earth worked together. Above them, the skeleton of a new ship took shape. It was already larger than the Phoenix had been. The quantum resonance chamber is ready for testing, Park Ji-soo called out, hurrying to catch up with Kim. She handed over a tablet showing the test results. The initial simulations are better than we hoped. Kim nodded, studying the numbers. Have you shown these to Captain Han? He's in the tactical room with Lee. They're working on something big. They found Han and Lieutenant Lee Sung-min surrounded by holographic displays showing weapon designs. Lee's face lit up when he saw them. Just in time, he said. We've figured out how to turn their own weapon principle against them. Han pointed to one of the displays. If Kim's quantum shield design works, we can capture their weapon energy and redirect it. Lee had the idea to store that energy and use it to power our own weapons. Like catching a bullet and shooting it back, Lee said proudly. Kim studied the design. It was risky, but brilliant. The power requirements would be enormous. That's why we need you to look at this, Han said. He brought up another display showing a new type of engine design. Dr. Yoon's team made a breakthrough studying the alien metal samples from the Phoenix. Dr. Yoon Ha-won entered the room, carrying more samples in a sealed container. The Raxus weapons didn't just damage our ship, she explained. They changed the fundamental properties of some materials. Look at this. She placed a piece of metal on the table. It seemed to shimmer, sometimes looking solid, sometimes almost transparent. The quantum state shifts created a new type of matter, she continued, one that can exist partially outside normal spacetime. If we can reproduce this effect, we could build engines that bypass the normal laws of physics. Kim finished, her mind racing with possibilities. The power output would be incredible. A loud alarm suddenly rang through the facility. Everyone tensed, but it was just the daily test signal. Still, they all remembered why they were working so hard. The Raxus ships are still out there, Han said quietly. Our long-range sensors detect more arriving every week. They're preparing for something big. Kim walked to the railing and looked down at the growing ship below. Workers swarmed over its hull like ants, adding new sections every day. The quantum resonance chamber glowed with a soft blue light at its heart. How long until they realize what we're building? Lee asked. They probably already know, Park said. Our quantum tests must be visible to their sensors, but they don't know exactly what we're doing. Their arrogance works in our favor. They don't think we're capable of understanding their technology, let alone improving on it. Speaking of improvements, Kim said, show them what you found in the weapon data, Park. Park grinned and brought up a new display. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. They follow fixed patterns. I've written an AI that can predict their attack sequences. If we combine this with Lee's energy capture system, we can anticipate their shots and turn their own power against them. Han finished. Excellent work, all of you. The main lights dimmed as another test began. The quantum resonance chamber pulsed brighter, sending waves of energy through special conduits. This time, nothing exploded. The engineers in the test area cheered. 1 month until the hull is complete, Kim reported. 2 more for internal systems. We're working as fast as we can, but everything has to be perfect. We won't get a second chance at this. Han put a hand on her shoulder. We've achieved more in 1 month than we did in 10 years of normal development. Earth's best minds working together. It's something the Raxus never considered possible. They watched as a massive section of hull plating was lifted into place. The new metal alloy shimmered with the same partial phase shift as the sample, but controlled, stable. We're not just building a better ship, Dr. Hume said softly. We're creating new laws of physics, new possibilities. Kim smiled as another successful test lit up the chamber. The Raxus had meant to show humanity its weakness. Instead, they had pushed humanity to reach for the impossible. And soon, very soon, they would learn just how dangerous that could be. The test chamber was completely silent. Chief Engineer Kim Do-ha held her breath as she watched the experimental shield generator power up. This was their 15th attempt, and they couldn't afford many more failures. The generator hummed softly, creating a shimmering bubble of energy. On the other side of the protective glass, Captain Han and the others watched intently. Energy levels stable, Park Ji-soo reported, her eyes fixed on the readings. Quantum field is holding. Dr. Hume pressed a button, and a robotic arm aimed a weapon at the shield. This weapon was their best copy of Raxus technology, built from studying the Phoenix's battle data. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The weapon fired. Everyone expected another explosion, another failure. Instead, something amazing happened. The energy blast hit the shield and disappeared. No explosion, no damage. The shield rippled like water and stayed stable. Where did it go? Lee Sung-min asked, leaning forward. Kim checked her instruments and started laughing. Exactly where we wanted it to. The shield didn't just block the blast. It shifted it into null space, just like we planned. The room erupted in cheers. After 2 months of work, they had finally done it. But Kim wasn't finished yet. She pressed another button on her console. The shield bubble suddenly flashed, and the captured energy burst out in a controlled beam, hitting the target on the far wall. We didn't just catch their punch, Lee said, grinning. We can throw it back. Han nodded approvingly. How soon can we scale this up to ship size? That's the best part, Park said, pulling up new data on the main screen. The bigger we make it, the more stable it becomes. The quantum field actually works better at larger sizes. Dr. Hume pointed to another set of readings. And look at the power usage. It's only using 20% of what we expected. The quantum resonance is self-sustaining once it starts. Show them the other thing, Kim said to Park, trying to contain her excitement. Park typed quickly on her console. A simulation appeared on the main screen, showing their new ship design. The shield doesn't just protect us. When we combine it with Dr. Yoon's phase-shifted hull materials, the simulation showed the ship seemingly fade out of existence. Partial quantum cloaking, Kim explained. We can shift partly out of normal space-time, just like their weapons do to our ships, but we can control it. We'll be able to choose when to be solid and when to be somewhere else, Lee added. Their targeting systems won't know what to do. Han walked closer to the shield bubble, studying it carefully. The Raxus based their entire strategy on having superior technology, on believing we couldn't understand their science. They didn't just underestimate us, Dr. Yoon said. They failed to understand a basic truth about humans. We learn, we adapt, we improve. Kim brought up another display, showing the engine room of their new ship. The quantum drive is ready for its first test. If it works like we think it will, we'll have faster-than-light travel without the limitations of normal space. Park finished. No more fixed jump points. No more predictable routes. Lee had moved to his tactical station. I finished the targeting systems too. They combine human intuition with quantum predictions. The Raxus rely on pure computation. We'll have both computer precision and human creativity. How long until everything is ready? Han asked. Kim checked her schedules. The shield generator can be installed tomorrow. Quantum drive testing starts next week. After that, she smiled. 3 weeks to put it all together and run final tests. The Raxus fleet is still growing, Lee reported. Long-range sensors show at least 30 ships now. They're probably waiting until they think they have enough force to crush us completely. Let them wait, Han said quietly. Let them gather their fleet. They think they're being thorough, being careful. He turned to face his team. But every day they wait is another day we get stronger. Kim looked through the window at their new ship. Its quantum-shifted hull glimmered with possibilities that even she hadn't imagined when they started. The Raxus had attacked the Phoenix expecting to find primitive humans playing with technology they didn't understand. Instead, they had created something new. Humans who understood the technology better than they did. And in 3 weeks, they would learn just how expensive that mistake had been. The first sign of trouble came at midnight. Security alarms blared throughout the mountain facility, waking everyone from their short rest periods. Multiple breaches detected. The security officer shouted as Captain Han rushed into the command center. They've somehow gotten past our outer defenses. Chief Engineer Kim Doo-ha was already at her station, fingers flying over the controls. They're trying to access our computer systems. The attacks are coming from inside the facility. Raxus infiltration units, Lieutenant Lee said grimly. He pointed to the security feeds showing strange, silver shapes moving through the corridors. They must have figured out what we're building. The infiltrators looked like liquid metal spiders, each one about the size of a dinner plate. They moved fast, crawling along walls and ceilings. Seal all doors to the ship bay, Han ordered. Nothing gets near that ship. Nothing. Dr. Yoon's voice came over the comm system. Captain, they're not just trying to destroy the ship. They're trying to steal our research data. Park Ji-soo jumped up from her station. The quantum formulae. If they get those. They won't, Kim said firmly. She pressed a series of commands. Initiating emergency protocols. All research data is being transferred to the new ship's quantum-isolated computers. They can't hack what they can't reach. The facility shook as security teams engaged the infiltrators. The sound of energy weapons echoed through the halls. Our weapons aren't very effective, Lee reported. The infiltrators can phase shift just like their ship's weapons. Kim looked up, her eyes bright with an idea. Then let's use our own phase shift technology against them. Park, help me modify the shield generator's frequency. While security teams kept the infiltrators busy, Kim and Park worked frantically. They rerouted power from the facility's main systems into a makeshift quantum pulse generator. Ready, Park announced. But this will shut down our power for at least 30 seconds. Better than letting them steal our technology, Han said. Do it. Kim pressed the activation button. The facility went dark. A wave of quantum energy pulsed through every corridor and room. When the emergency lights came back on, the infiltrators lay frozen, caught between phase states. It worked, Lee exclaimed. The pulse trapped them in mid-shift. Dr. Yoon was already scanning one of the disabled infiltrators. This is actually helpful. Now we can study their phase shift technology up close. But they had bigger problems. The main screen lit up with a transmission. High Commander Nexus's metallic face appeared, looking angrier than before. You surprise me, humans, the alien leader said. Not only did you survive our first lesson, but you dare to attempt understanding technology beyond your primitive minds. We understand more than you think, Han replied calmly. Do you? Then understand this. Your species has 20 Earth days to surrender. Submit to Raxus authority, or we will reduce your world to atoms." The transmission cut off. 20 days, Lee said quietly. Their reinforcements must be almost here. Kim checked her schedules again. The ship will be ready in 15 days. We'll have 5 days to train the crew. Not enough time. Park worried. We need at least 10 days for proper training. Then we'll train faster, Han said. He turned to address everyone in the command center. The Raxus think they're being generous, giving us time to consider surrender. But they still don't understand what humans can do when we're backed into a corner. Kim nodded. We'll run simulations day and night. The crew will train in shifts. We can do this. What should we call it? Lee asked suddenly. Everyone looked at him. The ship. We can't keep calling it the project or the new ship. It needs a name. Han smiled. In Korean mythology, the thunder god rides across the sky, bringing both storms and justice. We'll call it the ESS Thunderstorm. Over the next hours, as cleanup teams removed the defeated infiltrators, the pace of work increased even more. The failed attack had shown them two things. The Raxus were worried enough to try stopping them, and human technology could already beat Raxus technology. Kim watched through the armored windows as new sections of the Thunderstorm's hull were installed. The quantum-shifted metal seemed to flicker with power, like lightning trapped in steel. 20 days until the Raxus would return with their full fleet. 20 days to finish a ship that should have taken years to build. 20 days to prepare for the greatest battle in human history. Kim smiled as she got back to work. The Raxus had just made their second big mistake. They had given humanity a deadline, and nothing made humans work harder than a deadline. The ESS Thunderstorm floated silently in space near Jupiter's orbit. After 14 days of non-stop work and training, they were ready for their first real test. Captain Han stood on the bridge, looking at his crew with pride. Raxus scout ships detected, Lee announced from his tactical station. 3 of them, coming from behind Europa. Kim's voice came through the comm system from engineering. All systems ready, Captain. The quantum drive is running perfectly. Remember, Park added from her science station, they'll detect our quantum signatures as soon as we power up the shields. Han nodded. That's exactly what we want. Time to show them what we've learned. He pressed a button on his chair. All hands. Battle stations. The scout ships appeared on their main screen. They were smaller than the warships that had destroyed the Phoenix, but still dangerous. Suddenly, all 3 ships stopped. They've detected us, Lee reported. They're scanning. Their weapons are powering up. Hold position, Han ordered. Let them make the first move. A familiar hologram appeared, but this time it showed a lower-ranking Raxus commander. Impossible, the alien said. Our data showed humans couldn't build ships of this size for at least 50 years. We learn fast, Han replied calmly. You learn nothing, the Raxus commander snarled. This is merely a larger target to destroy. Open fire. All 3 scout ships fired at once. Their energy weapons, the same kind that had torn apart the Phoenix, streaked toward the Thunderstorm. Shields holding, Kim reported. There was joy in her voice. The quantum resonance is working perfectly. Their attacks aren't just being blocked. We're capturing the energy. On the main screen, the Raxus commander's eyes widened as his ship's weapons had no effect. What is this trickery? Lieutenant Lee, Han said quietly. Show them what we can do with their donated energy. Lee grinned and pressed his controls. The Thunderstorm's new weapons powered up, using the captured energy from the Raxus attacks. A single shot destroyed one of the scout ships completely. Impossible, the Raxus commander shouted. Our shields are superior to. We're superior, Park corrected him. Past tense. The remaining scout ships tried to escape, but the Thunderstorm's quantum drive was already spinning up. The massive ship vanished from normal space, reappearing instantly between the scouts. Their targeting systems can't lock onto us, Lee reported happily. The phase shift cloak is working just like we planned. The Raxus ships fired blindly, their shots passing harmlessly through the space where the thunderstorm seemed to be. Han watched calmly as their attacks grew more desperate. They're trying to send a warning signal to their fleet, Park reported. Let them, Han said. Kim, power up the main cannon. In engineering, Kim smiled as she channeled power to their largest weapon. They had built it using everything they had learned about Raxus technology, but with human improvements. The Thunderstorm's main cannon fired. The beams split into two, striking both remaining scout ships at once. Instead of exploding, the ships simply ceased to exist, their matter scattered across quantum space. All targets eliminated, Lee reported. No damage to our systems. Shields are still at full power. The bridge crew cheered, but Han raised his hand for quiet. Send the recording of this battle to Earth Command. The Raxus need to know that next time, we'll be ready for their whole fleet. Kim's voice came through again. Captain, remember how their weapons used to unmake our ships at the quantum level? Well, we just did the same thing to them, but better. Their own technology turned against them and improved. Park checked her readings. The quantum drive is stable. We can head back to Earth whenever you're ready. Han looked at the empty space where the scout ships had been. The Raxus had thought humans were primitive, incapable of understanding advanced technology. In just a few weeks, humans had not only understood it but made it better. Take us home, he ordered. We have 6 days left to prepare for their fleet, and now they know they should be afraid. As the thunderstorm disappeared into quantum space, Han thought about how far they had come. The Phoenix's destruction had been meant to break humanity's spirit. Instead, it had sparked the greatest technological leap in human history. In 6 days, the Raxus would learn an important lesson. Never underestimate humans' ability to turn defeat into victory. The deadline had arrived. 40 Raxus warships appeared near Mars, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Leading them was High Commander Nexus's flagship, twice the size of any other ship in the fleet. On the bridge of the ESS Thunderstorm, Captain Han watched the enemy fleet with calm eyes. Status report. All systems at full power, Kim reported from engineering. Quantum shields are ready. Phase shift systems are stable. Enemy fleet is forming an attack pattern, Lee said from tactical. They're spreading out to surround us. Park looked up from her science station. Captain, they've improved their weapons since the scout ships. The energy signatures are stronger. Han nodded. They had expected this. Signal Earth Command. Operation Thunder begins now. The Raxus commander's hologram appeared, larger than before. So the primitives built themselves a new toy. Nexus sneered. Your time is up. Surrender now, and we may let some of your species survive as servants. We have a counteroffer, Han replied. Leave our solar system now, and we'll let you go in peace. Nexus laughed, the sound like grinding metal. You dare threaten us? With 1 ship against 40, your arrogance exceeds even our estimates. Not arrogance, Han said quietly. Confidence. He turned to Lee. Show them why. The Thunderstorm's quantum drive activated. In an instant, the massive ship vanished and reappeared in the middle of the Raxus fleet. Before they could react, the human ship's weapons fired in all directions. Direct hits on 5 enemy ships. Lee reported excitedly. Their shields couldn't stop our quantum-enhanced weapons. The Raxus fleet scattered, trying to regroup. Their ships fired back, but the Thunderstorm's shields caught every blast, absorbing the energy. Power levels rising, Kim reported. We're gathering more energy than they're using to attack us. The quantum resonance is amplifying their own weapons against them. Park's fingers flew over her console. Their targeting systems are confused by our phase shifting. They can't get a solid lock. The Thunderstorm phased in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing around the enemy fleet. Each time it reappeared, more Raxus ships fell to its weapons. 10 enemy ships destroyed. Lee counted. 15, 20. But the Raxus weren't finished. Their remaining ships formed a new pattern, concentrating their fire on a single point in space. "They're trying to saturate an area with energy," Park warned. "If we phase shift into that space." The ship rocked as some of the enemy fire broke through. "Shields at 80%, Kim reported. "They're learning, adapting their attack pattern." Han smiled. This was what he had been waiting for. "Time for strategy 2. Dr. Yoon, are you ready?" "Ready, Captain," came the reply from the science lab. Quantum virus prepared for upload. During the battle with the scout ships, Dr. Yoon had studied the Raxus computers. She had found a way to use quantum data transmission to infiltrate their systems, targeting their command and control network, she reported. "Uploading now." The effect was immediate. Raxus ships began firing at random, their coordinated attack falling apart. "Their quantum network is compromised," Park reported with satisfaction. "They can't coordinate their attacks anymore." But High Commander Nexus's flagship was still intact. It moved forward, its weapons charging to maximum power. "The flagship is different," Kim warned. "Its shields are resistant to our quantum attacks." "As expected," Han said calmly. "They kept their best technology for themselves." "Lee, prepare main cannon." "Kim, divert all captured energy to weapons." The Thunderstorm and the Raxus flagship faced each other in space. Around them, the remains of the Raxus fleet drifted helplessly, their systems corrupted by Dr. Yoon's virus. "You dare." Nexus's hologram appeared again, his metallic face twisted with rage. "You dare use our own technology against us." "No," Han replied. "We used our technology. You just showed us where to start looking." Both ships fired at the same time. The space between them lit up like a new sun as quantum energies clashed. "Hold stress at maximum," Kim shouted over the noise of straining engines. "But the shields are holding." "Return fire with everything we have," Han ordered. "Show them what humanity can really do." The battle wasn't over, but humanity had already proven something important. The Raxus weren't invincible. They could be beaten. And the ESS Thunderstorm was just the beginning of what humanity could achieve. The ESS Thunderstorm and the Raxus flagship circled each other in space, their weapons still locked in a blazing battle of quantum energies. The rest of the Raxus fleet drifted powerless, defeated by human ingenuity. "Hull temperature rising," Kim reported from engineering. "The quantum shields are holding, but we're using massive amounts of power." Park's voice was urgent at her science station. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange. Their flagship's power readings. They're not normal." "Explain," Han ordered, gripping his chair as another blast rocked the ship. "The energy patterns." Park worked quickly at her console. "They're similar to what we saw when the Phoenix was destroyed, but much stronger. They're building up to something big." High Commander Nexus's hologram appeared again, but this time he was laughing. "Foolish humans, you thought you understood our technology. Let me show you true power." The Raxus flagship began to glow with a strange light. Its hull seemed to ripple like water. "They're trying to create a massive quantum displacement field," Dr. Yoon reported from her lab. "If it works, it could tear apart everything within 1,000,000 kilometers, including their own ships," Lee added, checking his tactical display. "They'd sacrifice their whole fleet just to destroy us." But Kim was smiling. "Captain, remember what we learned about quantum resonance, about how energy can be redirected." Han understood immediately. "Can we use their own quantum displacement against them?" "Better than that," Kim said excitedly. "Park, remember our first breakthrough, how their weapons showed us how to phase shift matter?" Park's eyes widened. "Yes. If we modify our shields to match their frequency, we can trap them in their own quantum bubble," Kim finished. "But we'll need all our power, everything we've got." Han didn't hesitate. "Do it. Lee, keep our weapons focused on their shield generators. We need them distracted." The thunderstorm's engines roared as Kim redirected all power to the quantum systems. The ship's hull began to shimmer with the same strange light as the Raxus flagship. "You copy our tactics again." Nexus sneered through the hologram. "It will not save you this time." "We're not copying," Han replied calmly. "We're improving." The Raxus flagship's quantum field expanded, reaching out to destroy everything in its path. But when it touched the thunderstorm's modified shields, something unexpected happened. "It's working," Park shouted. "Their quantum field is being reflected back on itself." The space around the Raxus flagship began to twist and fold. Nexus's hologram flickered, showing real fear for the first time. What are you doing?" the alien commander demanded. "Showing you what happens when you underestimate humans," Han answered. "We didn't just learn from your technology. We mastered it." "Energy readings are off the scale," Lee reported. "Their ship is being pulled into its own quantum displacement." Through the main viewer, they watched as the massive Raxus flagship began to fold in on itself. The quantum field it had created to destroy the solar system was instead wrapping around it like a cocoon of light. "Impossible!" Nexus screamed, his hologram breaking apart. "We are superior. We err." The hologram vanished. The Raxus flagship collapsed into a point of light no bigger than a star, then disappeared completely. "Target destroyed," Lee said quietly. "The quantum field has collapsed. No trace of the flagship remains." "What about the other Raxus ships?" Han asked. "Still disabled by our virus," Dr. Yoon reported. "Their crews are sending surrender signals." The bridge crew of the Thunderstorm sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then cheers erupted throughout the ship. They had done it. They had beaten the unbeatable enemy. "Send word to Earth Command," Han ordered with a smile. "The Raxus fleet is defeated. Earth is safe." Kim's voice came through the comm, tired but happy. "They thought breaking our best ship would break our spirit. Instead, it just showed us how much more we could achieve." "That's the thing about humans," Park added. "We don't just learn from our defeats, we transform them into victories." Han looked at the empty space where the Raxus flagship had been. The aliens had come to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had learned something themselves. Never underestimate the human ability to adapt, improve, and overcome. The ESS Thunderstorm turned toward Earth, its quantum-shifted hull glowing with power that even its creators hadn't fully imagined possible. They had built the most powerful ship ever seen in the galaxy. And this was just the beginning. Mia walked into the old warehouse. It was dark inside except for a bit of light coming through the dirty windows up high. She looked around cautiously, not sure what to expect. Suddenly, she heard a noise from the shadows. Maya froze, her heart pounding. A figure stepped out into the dim light. It was Jack. "I knew you'd come," he said with a small smile. "I'm glad you got my message." "What's this about, Jack?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why did you want to meet here?" Jack's expression turned serious. "There's something important I need to tell you, something that changes everything." He reached into his coat and pulled out a thick envelope. "It's all in here," he said, handing it to her. "The truth about what happened to your father. The real story that no one else knows." Mia stared at him in shock, hardly daring to believe it. Could this really be the answer she had been searching for all these years? With shaking hands, she took the envelope from him. Just then, they heard the wail of police sirens in the distance. Jack looked around anxiously. "You need to go," he urged her. "Before they get here, everything you need to know is in those documents." Mia hesitated for just a moment, torn. But the look in Jack's eyes convinced her. She turned and ran, clutching the precious envelope. As the sound of the sirens drew closer, the truth was finally within her reach.